What if we actually understood a key principle in change? There's a lot of people who are starting new habits in 2026 only to backslide and fail, and have epic fails in February. But in terms of understanding habit and the science of habit, I'm going to break something down.
The Voices of Victory podcast show.
Voices of Victory.
Vision.
Voices of Victory.
Leadership.
Voices of Victory.
Workplace-related topics.
The Voices of Victory.
Voices of Victory. Voices of Victory. Voices of Victory.
It's time for the show. You are now listening to the Voices of Victory podcast show.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mario Di Leone.
I am Mario Di Leone, and welcome to the Voices of Victory podcast show. Today is approximately January 7th, 2026. And guess what? Everybody's starting their new habit, right? Whether you want to fit into that bathing suit, or whether you want to change the way you eat or work out or exercise, it's the highest point where gym memberships absolutely surge because they make a ton of money off of all of their advertisements of the new year, new you nonsense, right? I don't say that change is good for January. I'm saying change is good for the whole damn year. And the science is in on change, and it's no longer theoretical. Organizations, groups, and people, guess what? When you track change with data, actual information, you outperform those people that are just relying on thoughts and instinct. They're doing more than just tradition or just executive confidence. Okay, this is not about being analytical for analytical's sake. That's not what I'm talking about. This is about survival in systems that no longer forgive guesswork when it comes to your health, when it comes to change, when it comes to exercise. In 2026, change is moving faster than permission can actually keep up with. And teams and people that instrument behavior and adopt the new behaviors, and they see where the problems are, and they see what is happening while it's still happening. That's how things go down. And everyone else, they conduct their little post-mortem failures, and they have lessons learned about how they didn't track their own results. Data does not make your change cold and boring. It makes it honest, it makes it real, it makes it scientifically backed. And you know what? It exposes where enthusiasm actually drifts away and ends, and where incentives actually break away, and where you confuse announcements from other people with actual progress. So when change is measured, it becomes governable. You can actually do it better. When it's not, it becomes a joke. It becomes an epic fail. It becomes folklore at best. So this is where most transformation quietly comes to die in 2026. And it's really not because your strategy was wrong, but because no one tracked whether you could actually execute it. You weren't using a piece of technology to track your diet, to track your exercise. So the absence of measurement, you know what it does is it creates comfort. And that comfort exists until all of the change actually collapse. So guess what? You're going to need to measure if you want change to actually occur. And that very tension, it sits at the center of Voices of Victory podcast, which is this show, hosted by yours truly, Mario Di Leone. And this focuses on people who treat change as an operating system, not as some one-off fun 2026 weekly campaign. I'm talking about what you measure and what you miss. And guess what? What you may never ignore again. Because when you use some kind of technology, it could be a smartwatch, a habit-shaping application, it could be anything. If you could have a sheet of paper with a grid and you can track changes. You can use habit sheets. And if you track things, if you start to measure things, you'll never ignore the good results that you see. So guess what? This is all about keeping it simple and understand that you're going to be uncomfortable. That's what change is all about, but it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be uncomfortable. The change doesn't have to be come outside of your comfort zone. It could be come to the edge just a little bit, where it's comfy and uncomfy blended in the two. And those who track change, they actually win for 2026 because they see the reality early. They also see where they've succeeded, which promotes confidence. And that allows you to make the kind of change that you want. But those who don't track change, you know what they do? They lose. They lose completely because reality eventually finds them. And in 2026, the difference is no longer subtle. It's no longer optional. You need to track your results, period. End of story. If you're thinking about taking on a diet, taking on this, taking on that, taking on your next workout, taking on a new eating habit, whatever the case may be, track, and measure. The science is in. The people who track and measure succeed, and the ones who don't. Happy New Year. Have a great 2026. Take care.